Hello and welcome to this special show with Sadhguru Ji for challenging times. He's been holding all our hands to see us through this difficult period, this crisis period where we're facing not just social distancing, but we've had emotional pressures, we have had stress regarding our jobs, we have had stress regarding our health, and through all this, Sadhguru Ji has been kind enough to be with us and guide us through proper mechanisms on how to deal with each situation that is currently facing us. Namaskaram Sadhguru Ji, and thank you very much for joining me on this special show. And today, Sadhguru Ji, I want to concentrate on the issue that is on everybody's mind right on top, which is the issue of where are we going to go after this lockdown, because from all senses it seems that the lockdown will be extended, whether it's extended for 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks. We don't know. We are living in this air of uncertainty, but the fact is that everybody can see an economic crisis coming up. Businesses which can't take this pressure will shut down, and many people could lose their jobs. International Labour Organization to other organizations in India, the Center for Monitoring the Indian Economy, are all predicting huge job losses. And that is a major source of stress for people. How do we look at the economy and how do we handle this stress?
Well, it is a challenging time, there's no question about that. But how long will the lockdown last? I think right now the government is trying to calibrate how to enforce the lockdown in the next phase, allowing little more room for economic activity to happen to some extent. It is easier said than done, because with one restriction on and one restriction released, things may not work. But one thing that can happen and that must happen is agricultural activity must go on full force. How to educate farmers on social distancing, all this can be done, but generally there is distance if they are little careful. Their work does not demand concentration of people generally, they should be able to manage. But keeping the agricultural activity is very important, because nearly 65% of the country's population is there. So in that sense, if you revive the agricultural activity, or anyway the agricultural activity was right now at a little pause because this season is like that, but from April 15th onwards, if you revive the agricultural activity full on, then you have 60 to 65% of the population back to work. And productivity in terms of agriculture is very vital for the nation, because right now we are rightly talking about how doctors and nurses and the police are the heroes in the country. But we must understand agriculture or the farmers will be the real heroes in another 3 to 6 months, because how much food is produced in the country will determine where we will go in the next 3 to 6 months. Having said that, how long will the virus itself last and trouble us like this? How long do we have to maintain this distancing? How long will it take before people can assemble easily together? Well, it's a question which can only be estimated to some extent, looking at the experience of other nations, looking at South Korea, looking at Germany, looking at China, but we don't have the same instruments of control as the Chinese have, because this is a democratic country and it's a very complex population of people. So we don't have the same instruments of control. But looking at how they controlled and brought down the curve, it is encouraging, but at the same time, whoever has brought down the curve, there is no guarantee that once again, with 1 or 2 people infected, again it'll multiply into many thousands or millions or whatever. So how quickly will it revive, or in the meantime, will the virus itself mutate into be a milder form? Will it happen globally? I don't think so. It may happen regionally, somewhere where it becomes nearly over 40–50% of the population takes to infection, then in that place mutations may happen, but it may not happen globally. But largely, lockdowns have brought down the curve. When lockdowns are relaxed in some nations, still if the curve starts moving down, that is very encouraging, but right now there is no medical data or scientific basis for us to assume that if we remove the lockdown after 15 days, then everything will start going down. There is no such guarantee about it. Looking at the best possible scenario and the worst scenario, if we have to look at the best possible scenario, let's say by 15th of May, the curve has really reached a point where easily manageable for a nation with our existing medical infrastructure, then I don't think the loss for the economy will be that big, we don't have to fear so much. 1 or 2 quarters we will be bad, but by the end of the year we should be back on the thing because our economy is such very people-driven economy. It is not necessarily driven by any one major force like export or this or that, it's very people-driven economy. So largely we should be able to revive within 2 to 3 quarters. Let's say mid-2021 we should be doing fine, on the track or maybe even doing better than the way we are doing right now, because I believe people will come back with full force. And the necessary financial packages and all the support that is needed if government comes out fully and the international bodies also come out with that, it is possible to do that. But the worst scenario would be if this persists, let us say till September, October or even up to December, then really the closure of businesses and loss of labor going into… Right now they're in a particular industry, but they may get engaged somewhere else. Lot of them may try to get back to agriculture because a whole lot of migrant labor that you see in the country have small pieces of land which they have left and come because working in an industry or in a city is more lucrative for them. But they may start going back to agriculture. That will be like resigning ourselves to poverty, pushing a whole percentage of population back into poverty. That will only happen if this virus and serious amount of lockdown or massive infections till September, October, if it continues, I think that will happen. But if it goes away in May, June, I think we will recover by the end of the year or in the first quarter of 2021, we should be back on track.
Goldman Sachs has predicted that instead of 3.3%, we will now grow at 1.3%, which means the wealth of the country comes down, which means the share of each Indian citizen also goes down tremendously if the growth goes down. The challenge that really exists is agriculture, whether it will become more productive or not. Small industry will find it difficult to survive. Large industries are already the biggest cribbers as far as their position is concerned. They have larger businesses to protect and therefore more money invested into it, and therefore their problems are larger. They're screaming the loudest. It's a doomsday scenario at the moment, the way it's looking. Again, talk about the aviation sector, no flights, no passengers, no movement, and airports which have been built with a lot of money, private public partnerships going on in many places, private airports in many places. Are we ever going to be able to come out of this without sacrificing a whole lot of our population, either to fatalities, due to hunger, or due to the virus, or just due to poverty?
We will definitely sacrifice a lot of wealth, for sure. But will we sacrifice people? That's why I said agriculture is very important. There must be food in the marketplace. Even if people don't have the money to buy it, there must be food in the marketplace. Providing them money will be a possibility. But if we don't have production of food, then we will drive ourselves into that corner where starvation deaths can, overrun the virus deaths. That will be a very sad story. I'm sure we will not drive ourselves into that position. At the same time, at times like this, these statistics must be used like how a drunk will use a lamppost only for support, not for illumination.
Well, that's a great example, Sadhguruji. But I want to ask you, and I think my viewers will join with me in asking you this question. We ordinary people don't know how this is going to last. We want to ask Sadhguruji, do you have a crystal ball that will tell us how long is the suffering for India likely to be?
Do I look like one of those weird psychics who's gazing at a crystal ball all the time? But I have trust.
No, you don't. But we see you as a more evolved human being than us. So we think you have the answers better than we have.
See, I have trust in the resilience of the Indian people. They will bounce back with vigor and vengeance at what's been lost. I also have trust in the resoluteness of the leadership right now. And look at the way in this emergency situation, not just central government, every state government, with how much clarity they're responding and managing better than most other nations. Though our systems may not be as, as strong or as money-rich, cash-rich as other nations, still we are doing a great job. So when we have to do things, we will do things. Our largest problem in the country has been that constantly we are at loggerheads with each other. I think this virus to some extent will relax that, and wanting to do well, wanting the nation to do well, if it builds up into everybody's minds and hearts, we will come out of this well. It is just that, as I've been repeatedly saying everywhere, the most important thing is we must ensure the vulnerable population is taken care of, fatalities are minimized. But having said that, there is another problem. Like there are families in… that we know in New York who got the virus almost 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago, and in about 2 weeks they recovered. But still their respiratory activity has not come back to normal, they're still having difficulty in breathing. If those kind of situations persist for long periods of time, because there is not much data on those who have recovered, their temperature is gone, maybe there is no virus in their blood, so they are saying recovered. But is their respiratory action back to normal? Will there be normal human beings? Will they be able to work? Will they be able to be physically active? This is information that we must immediately gather. The medical personnel or an institution like AIIMS or somebody should make a little study and see those who have recovered, what is their physical efficiency? Are they fully back to normal? Or their respiratory activity, is it not normal? And how long it'll be that way? Has there been any permanent damage to one's lungs with this virus? We do not know. Maybe a country like China, where the recovery has been almost like, they came almost to zero almost 2 weeks ago, I think they may be able to make a better study because there are more people there who have recovered than in anywhere else in the world probably. Probably the government could request data like this because this data will be vital to make any kind of predictions about economy. How fit will people be to get back to work? They may be free of coronavirus, but will they be fit enough to get back to normal work? This is a question that we must address.
But Sadhguruji, even if China were to provide us that data, would you believe that data? The world, I don't think, is in a mood to believe anything China says.
That is why I said we should use it only as support, not for illumination. This kind of data they wouldn't fudge because, economic data and other things are a different matter, but this is a different kind of data which I think we can gather and we ourselves can gather. I'm sure there are a few thousand people who have recovered from the virus in the country. You make a little study of them and arrive at this, in how many weeks will they be totally normal in terms of respiratory action? Because it's essentially a respiratory problem.
Sadhguruji, the one question that many people ask is the number that we are looking at around, between 6 and 7,000 at the moment, is it a realistic number? We don't forget that India is a poor country. India has large parts of their population that are illiterate, awareness levels are low, on the other hand, we have our own limitations about the availability of testing kits. We have also a political issue here, because some governments don't even want to declare the real numbers, because there is one-upmanship that my state has lesser than your state, so I'm administratively handling it better than you. That kind of one-upmanship. I want to ask you, and even at the present rate, our mortality rates are towards the higher side in the world, even above Spain and Iran, below UK, but above Spain and Iran. The question really is, are we still in a bubble, in a fool's paradise? Is the real picture worse than what we are being given to understand?
No, that is why I said the general resilience of Indian system, I'm saying the system of an Indian person, and other factors, genetic factors and everything playing, there may be a whole lot of asymptomatic carriers. They are still capable of infecting, but nothing may happen to them. There may be lots of them like that, definitely there will be. But at the same time, it's quite incredible. We are just checking this out because our volunteers are there in the villages. In the remotest parts of the country, almost everybody knows what the symptoms are. So if those symptoms are there, they will report, concerned about their own health and well-being. We are definitely not making up the fatality rates. That is, the fatality is extremely low in the country, but as you said, in terms of percentages, it's high because probably only those with symptoms are being tested. Our testing is not so widespread, and I don't think it is necessary either, because testing 1.4 billion people that is going to bankrupt the nation if you go like that. So, it's important that we adjust our response to this problem in our own way as it is suitable for our country, rather than simply going about testing everybody. That's going to be an enormous exercise which will cripple the medical system, just the testing process. But wherever there are symptoms, immediately tests must happen, and if necessary quarantine, all those things must happen. So, those who have symptoms literally almost anywhere in the country, in the remotest parts of the nation, they are reporting. So, that way I think we don't have to take the data in the same context as how the Western nations take it.
Sadhguruji, one basic question. How do we survive the stress of probably losing a job, the stress of, what are we going to do, how are we going to make our ends meet, and even during this period, how will I pay my rent, how will I save up, all our calculations, planning, everything has gone awry at this point in time, and most people are wondering, how are they going to survive this biggest challenge, something that they had not factored in their lives. What would you tell them today?
See, as we repeatedly saying, these are challenging times, no question. When challenges come, will we grow taller, stronger and better human beings, or will we succumb to the challenge and throw our hands up? These are two options every human being has. People have gone through all kinds of situations and come out stronger and better. If you allow me to narrate an anecdote, during the World War II, this happened. Somewhere in I think 1941 or so, a group of German soldiers came, broke into an Austrian Jewish home and broke the house into pieces and everything in the house, took away the parents, and there were two children, a 12-year-old girl and a 8-year-old boy. The children were taken separately and parents were taken away. The children were taken to a railway station in the dead winter where temperatures are in minus, and they were just left in the railway platform for 3 days because the train did not come. So, children are children, boys want to play football and they're playing football, and then the train came. So once the train came, the soldiers came and rushed everybody back into the thing. This is not a passenger train, this is a cargo train or a goods train, where all the children were just packed into it. In this rush, the boy left his shoes out there and got into the train. His elder sister, a 12-year-old girl, saw this little boy without shoes. She got so mad at him. She held him by the ear and really squeezed it out, turned it around and abused him. Said, "You idiot, we have enough trouble as it is. We don't know where the parents are gone, here we are, and you come without the shoes, because in winter without shoes means you lose your feet actually." So after that, in the next station, they separated boys and girls. And she came out of the concentration camp in 1944 when the war was over. 17 members of her family had all just vanished, including the little boy. No trace of them. Where they went, she doesn't know. So the only thought that was on her mind was the last few things that she told her little brother, the abuse. So she made up her mind that from now on, whoever I meet, anybody we meet, this could be the last time we meet them, okay? There is no guarantees about life. So whoever I meet, this could be the last time. So I will ensure I'll speak to them, if this is the last time, how I will speak to them, like that. Out of this, her whole life got transformed and she died in 2006. She did phenomenal work in America, in Illinois, and she died as a very respected member of the society, but her entire life got transformed because of this one stand she took. Whoever I meet, I will address them. Suppose this is the last conversation, I should not regret. So from every situation, people have come out on the top. So this is not as bad as being in a concentration camp. You're just at home, all right? Yes, there is loss of jobs, there will be loss of lifestyles, all of us have to curtail. We have already curtailed, in the ashram, we have right now 2,642 people living. We have already started changing our diet to a much simpler diet because we are preparing for a long haul. Because everything that we do is assembly of people. I believe we won't be able to do any large assembly till November, December. So, we will go without any revenue, any donations for almost this entire year. So, how are we going to feed them? Every day, on a normal day, over 7,000 people eat meals in the ashram. Weekends, 15 to 20,000 people eat. We can't close the doors of our kitchen, we have to keep it going. So, we have already started making it your more meager diets for all of us. So, this is something that all of us will have to do. We must be ready for it, and above all, life has thrown a challenge at us. We must win this, we must win this. At least nobody is bombing us, nobody is putting us in a concentration camp. It is a challenge. We must win this as a nation.
Yes, and together with each other, with every single Indian holding hands and…
No, no holding hands, with distance, no holding hands. No holding hands.
No holding hands. I meant it… I meant it completely figuratively and not really, but we will be together, we will win this together.
This is good. Holding hands like this is good.
People like Sadhguru G, yes, and we will go through this because there is no other way. We just have to win this war, and what happens after that is another battle which we will live to fight another day. Thank you very much, Sadhguru Ji, for joining me on this show. We'll be back with more, because this hopefully is certainly not the last time we are seeing each other. Thank you for joining.